everyone, what's up? What's up? Welcome back to the Convo Couch. And I am doing a special video today. Pasta and I and Johnny went to Tulsi Town Hall, so we still have a lot of footage that we need to sift through. So it's going to take like a minute. So today I'm going to talk about Elizabeth Warren again because I believe she is the establishment's last card. And what we are seeing is a shift from Biden to her as the media is shifting to preference her. Also, we're seeing that the polls are shifting, of course, in coincidence. And we're also seeing that there is a little bit of somewhat of an organic shift, but it's very, very minimum, and I'll explain why. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, because I want this to be a small, succinct video, is the propaganda polling. MSDNC, as I refer to them, released propaganda reminiscent of 2016's shenanigans. They took the polling data and then turned it into this imaginary number chart of delegate votes without a single vote being cast. So let's just show the graph of the article here. We have MSNBC, and they're showing the 2020 Democratic early context pre-election delegate estimate. So over here, we're seeing that the whole title was that new poll shows Warren closing in on Biden in an estimated delegate count. So we see Biden having 600, we see Warren having 545, we see Bernie having 286, O'Rourke, and then Harris and Klobuchar. So this whole thing is to make it look like, look, Elizabeth Warren is rising in the polls, and look at her delegate count, and look at Biden's delegate count compared to Bernie's. This creates a false sense of information that makes voters feel like, oh, why am I going to vote for Bernie if he's so far behind the other two? People who don't look at indie media, who only watch CNN, MSNBC, etc., don't know what goes into this polling. And if you look into the polling and you have to look at the random sample, and if it's a random sample, the size of the sample, the margin of error, people don't know all this. They don't do all this. They look at this and they're like, wow. So when their friends are like, well, I'm voting for Biden because he has the highest likelihood of beating Trump, this is where they're getting this information from. It's very dangerous, and it is completely dishonest for the media to do this. This is why I call it propaganda. This is fake news. I mean, Donald Trump might have coined the term and turned it into a right-wing conspiracy, but it's not a conspiracy. And that's the problem when the left automatically assumes anything that questions the narrative is, and I should say the liberal left, not like the left. When they, make anything that questions the narrative something to be like some sort of conspiracy, which isn't, it's not valid. So, this is called bandwagoning when it's done, like I said, to discourage people from voting instead of going with their choice. And the DNC did this in 2016 with Clinton, already talking about how many superdelegates Clinton had. So even though the superdelegates don't vote until the second round this time, this is acting like this is legitimate research when this is not. And it just makes it look worse than it should. So I want to kind of play a little bit of the video so you guys can see exactly what these pundits are saying and how they completely dismiss other candidates, including Yang, including Tulsi, who is rising in the polls, and of course, Bernie Sanders.
We're back with a brand new 2020 poll that has the race for the Democratic nomination looking the closest yet. The CBS News YouGov survey of early Democratic contests has Biden pulling in an estimated 600 delegates. Elizabeth Warren right there on his heels with 545. The two are well ahead of Bernie Sanders, who gets an estimated 286 delegates right now. The results are from all of the states holding Democratic primaries and caucuses through Super Tuesday. Let's bring in MSNBC contributor Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, professor at the University University of Texas LBJ School of Public Affairs. Democratic strategist Don Calloway and Republican political consultant Shermichael Singleton, contributing host for Vox Media's Consider It. Hey, guys. Good to see you all. Let's go ladies first here. Victoria, how big is this? I mean, does this mean Warren is within reach of Biden, only 25 delegates behind at this point?
This is a very big deal for Warren because there's only really room for that one left candidate. Is it going to be Warren? Is it going to be Bernie Sanders? And here from the delegate count, we see that it's shaping up to be Warren. And then the mirror image of that is that we're seeing from public opinion polling that's coming out as well that she's also gaining on Biden and holding her own pretty strongly against Bernie Sanders. This is super important. It's even more important, Alex, because remember that the DNC changed its method of how it's going to count superdelegates. So whereas before the superdelegates had a bigger impact that helped those established candidates like the Bidens, this time around the superdelegate is only going to be used if someone doesn't have a clear
Can
majority,
you stop it right there?
which means that getting that prime delegate count.
Okay, I just want him to stop it right there, and I'll let it play a little bit more because she's literally saying they're manufacturing consent here. Like, it looks like there's only going to be room for one candidate. It looks like it's going to be Warren. Not only is she saying that, she's also making Warren look like she's the progressive. She's making Warren look like she's like whoa, like it's great. A progressive is winning. It's there, and she's completely dismissing Bernie Sanders and making it look like this person, like Elizabeth Warren, is actually a super leftist, and that's great. If she was a super leftist, they wouldn't be talking about her this way. They have never spoken about Bernie Sanders this way, ever. And if we look back to 2016, before that, they spoke about Tulsi really positively, but then the moment she endorsed Bernie Sanders, she was blacklisted. So let's not kid ourselves here. When we're seeing them prop up Elizabeth Warren, it's not because they had a change of heart and they all of a sudden embrace leftist policies. It's because they are okay with her for the reasons I've talked about before and the reasons I will continue to talk about. Just let it play a little bit longer, Johnny.
Is going to be key, and Warren, she's doing well.
She is. Shermichael, before this poll was released, the Daily Beast had an article, and it was titled, "Trump World Anxiety Grows Over a Rising Elizabeth Warren." What are you hearing? Are Republicans beginning to see her as a serious threat to the president?
I mean, there is some concern, but the primary focus is still on Vice President Biden, because most Republican strategists and operatives do understand that in order to become the nominee of the Democratic Party, you have to secure a significant amount of support with African Americans. 6 in 10 Democrats at this point say that they're still open to supporting someone else. And so I think for the Warren campaign, the question has to be, in spite of her quick advances, if you will, why hasn't she been able to find resonance within the black community where Joe Biden has it? It's not only African Americans, Alex, also Hispanics seem to favor Joe Biden more favorably than the other Democratic candidates. And so if you're one of those advisors advising someone like Warren or even Bernie Sanders, you have to be struggling trying to figure out how can we chip away at that support with two of the largest minority groups in the country.
Yeah, okay. And yet, Don, Politico had a report out Friday.
So I just want to note really quickly, yes, Elizabeth Warren does not have people of color supporting her. She has them on her staff for identity politics' sake. But yes, the majority of her supporters are white. And okay. But to say the same thing about Bernie Sanders, the majority of his supporters are people of color. The majority of his supporters are women. And again, we are seeing them completely ignore those facts that have been proven by statistics, by studies. And make it out to seem that Biden is the one that's getting, all these votes. Also, what they're doing is they're making Warren seem like she's the threat to Trump. Donald Trump is not scared of Warren. He's scared of Bernie Sanders. It is very clear. He's even insinuated that himself. Whenever Bernie says something to him, he doesn't attack him back. He's literally not afraid of any of these establishment candidates because Trump understands that the real threat is going to be a movement that mirrors his in the opposite end of the spectrum.
Trump has even put ads out that even specifically reference Bernie. Isn't that right?
Exactly. So
like, oh, you don't want that socialist Bernie, and
Yeah.
he doesn't do any ads for anybody else,
No,
right?
because he doesn't see anybody else as a threat. But the Democratic Party and the Democratic establishment are clearly, they know this, and they're clearly threatened by what is happening. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on for the sake of time. But if you guys do want to watch that ridiculous video, they basically just completely ignore Bernie Sanders and they continue to prop up Biden and Warren, which is what I figured would happen. And later on, the gentleman, I think all the way on the right, says, oh, Biden is pretty much going to dwindle and it's going to be Warren, just like we've been saying here for the longest time. So I just want to let you guys know the shift has begun. It's not just the media. It's all these centrist think tanks like Warren. And I'm like, for Warren, like Neera Tanden and Center for American Progress, all of these people are lining up for her. So let's talk about her rallies. The media really focused a lot on her rallies, and Warren supporters have been talking about how she's getting the largest crowds in New Hampshire. And let's go on Emma's Twitter here, where she was like, in her objective analysis, once again, she decided that Warren had the largest crowds, and on this there's a little really quick video, Johnny, that we can play. So in this little video, and the tweet, Emma said, Elizabeth Warren runs out to greet supporters at the New Hampshire Democratic 2020 convention. Her crowd is clearly the largest here thus far, with Kamala Harris coming in second in that area, Andrew Yang in third. Okay. So I want to look at what Bree Joy Gray did. She retweeted that, and she basically said, oh, that's great, but we were out canvassing and knocking on doors. I'm sorry, I don't think I linked you that one, but she retweeted it saying, oh, that's because all the Bernie supporters were knocking on doors. The Bernie campaign, while this was happening, knocked on over nearly 10,000 doors. 10,000 doors. So their strategy is obviously talking to people, one-on-one interaction, and there is a pic here, Johnny, below where you can see the crowds, the Kamala Harris that she posted, and the Elizabeth Warren. And you can see me saying about her objective analysis. But I just wanted to point that out because the truth is Warren's support, although some of it is organic, and we saw the little girls, screaming, we need a woman in the White House. It was really kind of disturbing because they were like screaming at people. There wasn't that many of them, but they just had a lot of signs, so it looked like there were so many of them. But Elizabeth Warren's support, is it really organic? It looks like it's not. Senator Elizabeth Warren, and this was on the Boston Globe article, of Massachusetts demonstrated the sheer force of her supporters. Warren received by far the biggest reception of any candidate when she took the stage, welcomed with a 2-minute standing ovation before she uttered a word. Her campaign paid for hundreds of tickets and provided supporters with thundersticks reading, "Win with Warren. We have to win in 2020, Warren said in the opening minute of her remarks. So let's talk about how it's done. If you are rising in the polls, if you have the largest support and you are, going over Joe Biden in some polls, why would you need to pay in New Hampshire, which is part of New England, for your supporters to show up there, right? And I can't confirm that they offered them anything else, but the fact that they paid for their tickets is a big deal. And why would you have to do that? Bernie Sanders doesn't do that. Bernie Sanders' support is all organic. So what I'm looking at here is maybe she's not as popular as the media is making her out to be, but she has to make it look like she is, because maybe come the convention, right? Come the convention, we cannot question how popular she was and she has been. And now that is my opinion. That little small snippet is me theorizing over why. But that's to me what it's looking like is happening. So I want to move on to Hillary Clinton. As many of you know, and I posted about this a few days ago, Warren has met with Hillary Clinton. It's been discovered that she met behind closed doors. She's met several times. And of course, it makes progressives uneasy, understandably so. But there are ways this helps Elizabeth Warren. It gets her possible funding. It gets her the DNC to know that she is willing to talk to the DNC's queen and play ball with the establishment. It ensures her loyalty to them. It makes hardcore Biden supporters make them feel like she's not as bad, and it boosts her career politically in the establishment, right? But this hurts Warren with progressives. This makes progressives, as I said, feel like, okay, like we know who you're with, and it risks damaging her by aligning herself with all these moderates. But the Democratic establishment doesn't care about that. So more than anything, in the eyes of the establishment, this helps Warren. And when it comes to, you know, backing off Medicare for all, the situations with Dow revealed, and a lot of the things coming from her Senate campaign funneling corporate PAC money, which is different. It's corporate PAC money. Yes, Bernie Sanders funneled some of his money from his campaign. And this is in response to Lauren Steiner, who said, well, Bernie did it too. Well, Bernie didn't funnel PAC money into his presidential run. Bernie's support is largely grassroots. So because I've been talking about Warren, I quickly want to just talk about the truth about Bernie's support. According to an article on Common Dreams, Bernie received standing ovation as the largest New Hampshire convention crowd. And of course, Common Dreams is a progressive news source for the most part. They talk about they kind of, you know, talk against the established narrative. And this is where I link you Brianne status, Johnny, where she talks about what they were actually doing while Warren was paying for people's tickets to go yell and, you know, cheer her. This is what they were doing. They were knocking on doors. Do you have the link? Okay. They were knocking on doors, and I mean, I think that was a low key, like, look, this is what we're doing. This is what matters. We're here knocking on doors for people. You got it? Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing it. That's fine. Okay. Another thing that is a reality is that Bernie Sanders got 53 endorsements from New Hampshire public officials. 53 endorsements, and you guys can look it up right here. There's the PDF, and it's a lot of public officials, which is important because they do have a lot of weight. And of course, it shouldn't always, I don't think it should be like that. But Bernie Sanders, in my opinion, has New Hampshire on lock. Like he had it last time. He's gonna get it. I mean, you know, saying that Elizabeth Warren is now beating him in New Hampshire is about as ridiculous as it gets. Especially when he's got all of these public officials, when he's out, and on top of that, he's canvassing and talking to voters out there on the ground. So while the media may make it seem like his support is dwindling and Elizabeth Warren's is rising, the reality is that's what they want you to think, to discourage you from voting for him and from following your convictions and your intuition and your heart, because that's how they win. By placing doubt, planting that seed of doubt in your head. And we can't let them do that. And this is why it's important to look at independent media, because we're not going to sit there getting paid millions of dollars to tell you something that we were told we had to tell you. And there are people that are fighting against that, and I appreciate them. One of those people is Crystal Ball from The Rising, I think is her show. She's doing a great job. She's still within one of the establishment outlets, but for being in that outlet, she's calling it out. And I really support people that are capable and have the guts to do that. With that said, I wanted to make this a short show. Johnny, do you have anything else? Okay, Johnny has something really quickly for you guys. I wanted to make it short. So
yeah, just you know, I looked up the hashtag NH Democratic Convention, and you know, you can look it up. You'll see some supporters, you know, Corey out there, Beto, Buttigieg. And then I just wanted to show how, you know, Tulsi supporters are out here hula hooping, having fun. We got the peace sign there, peace flag. Yeah, that's Tulsi supporters, and then there's more videos about. There was one video. Yeah, there's some Bernie supporters here. There was one video of that there was a lady yelling. What was it? We need a
Woman in the White House.
Yeah,
That one.
a woman in the White House.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. That one's really disturbing.
Yeah.
I can't even hear it. Like, it's really disturbing to me. And you know what? Just on that note, before we go, if you want a woman in the White House, why isn't it the most progressive woman? The one that doesn't take corporate PAC money.
The woman of color, if you're going to play identity politics.
Yeah,
right?
let's play identity politics. Why are none of these establishment Democrats who love identity politics supporting a veteran woman of color who doesn't take the money? Who doesn't want green bombs, who is an anti-interventionist? Maybe, just maybe, because she, like Bernie, is the biggest threat to the establishment. And I'll leave you guys with that thought. Thanks for watching. Thank you. I'm going to go look at the comments and read through them and respond. Thanks for all the support. We really do appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. And donate to our Patreon if you can. And from Johnny Tsunami and me, Convo out.
Peace.
Bye.